The thing about working the graveyard shift at an all-night diner is that you see people at their most desperate. They're most honest. They're most broken. But Cassie Monroe had never seen anyone look as terrified as the man who burst through the door at 3:47 a.m., holding a silent, blue-lipped infant. She didn't know he was the most powerful vampire in North America. Didn't know the baby in his arms was the first vampire child born in 3 centuries. Didn't know that what she was about to do would bind their lives together in ways that would remake both their worlds. She just knew that a baby was dying. And Cassie Monroe had spent 5 years raising a medically fragile daughter. She knew exactly what to do. What she didn't know was that saving the child would make her the most protected and most hunted human alive. That the Vampire King would owe her a debt that could never be repaid. That her compassion would shatter walls he'd built over 1,000 years. Or that the moment her hands touched his son, ancient magic would recognize what even she didn't know about herself. Some bonds are forged in blood. Others in desperate need. This one was forged in both. Cassie's hands were raw from washing dishes when the bell above the diner door chimed. She glanced at the clock, 3:47 a.m. The dead hour when even insomniacs had given up and gone home. She was alone. Reggie, the night cook, had stepped out for a smoke. The manager never worked graveyard. It was just her, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, and the perpetual smell of burnt coffee and old grease. The Starlight Diner sat on the edge of downtown Seattle, the kind of place where truckers, night shift workers, and people with nowhere else to go found refuge. Cassie had been working there for 3 years, ever since her ex-husband walked out and left her with a 4-year-old daughter who needed constant medical care. Cerebral palsy. The doctors said Emma would never walk without assistance. Never speak clearly. Never live independently. Cassie had smiled, nodded, and then proceeded to prove every single one of them wrong through sheer stubborn determination and YouTube physical therapy videos she watched at 2 a.m. when Emma finally slept. Now Emma was 7, walking with only minor assistance, speaking in full sentences, and attending regular school. It wasn't perfect, but it was possible. Because Cassie Monroe didn't give up on things that mattered. The man who entered the diner moved wrong. That was Cassie's first thought. Too smooth, too fast, like he was gliding rather than walking. He wore an expensive suit. She'd worked enough high-end events in her previous life to recognize custom tailoring, but it was disheveled, the tie missing, the shirt partially unbuttoned. His face was angular, pale, with dark hair swept back from a widow's peak. Handsome in a way that made her instinctively step back. Too perfect. Too cold. But his eyes, dark, almost black in the harsh diner lighting, held pure terror. And in his arms, wrapped in a blanket, was a baby. The infant wasn't crying. Wasn't moving. Its lips were blue. Help. The man's voice was rough, accent unplaceable. Old European maybe, but something else beneath it. Please. He's not breathing. Every maternal instinct Cassie possessed screamed to life. She vaulted over the counter, something her manager would fire her for, and was at his side in seconds. How long? She demanded, already pulling the baby from his arms. The man resisted for a split second, then released the child. The infant was maybe 3 months old, impossibly pale, with the same dark hair as the man. And he was choking, his tiny face turning from blue to purple. 2 minutes. 3. I was driving and he just... The man's composure cracked. I don't know what to do. The hospital is 20 minutes away and I can't. Back infant CPR position, Cassie interrupted, already turning the baby face down along her forearm, supporting his head. She'd taken a recertification course just last month. Emma's condition meant Cassie knew every emergency procedure by heart. She delivered 5 firm back blows between the baby's shoulder blades. Nothing. The infant remained limp, silent. Come on, sweetheart, Cassie whispered, flipping him over, supporting his head and neck. 2 fingers on the center of his tiny chest. 5 quick compressions. The man watched, frozen, his face a mask of absolute horror. Back blows again. Compressions. Cassie fell into the rhythm, her hands steady even as her heart hammered. She'd done this before with Emma, once when her daughter was 2 and choked on a piece of apple. Come on, baby. Come on. On the third cycle, she saw it. Something lodged in the infant's throat, visible now. Without hesitation, she swept her pinky finger through the baby's mouth, hooking whatever was blocking the airway. A small object came free. Some kind of stone? Crystal? It was dark red, almost black and warm to the touch. The baby gasped, then screamed. The sound was the most beautiful thing Cassie had ever heard. Color flooded back into his face, not healthy pink, but pale ivory. He wailed with the fury of the newborn, tiny fists flailing. Cassie held him close, supporting his head, feeling his chest expand and contract with each breath. There you go. There you go, sweetheart. You're okay now. She looked up at the man, ready to reassure him, and froze. He was staring at her with an expression she couldn't name. Not just relief. Something deeper, more complex. Recognition, maybe. Or shock. He's breathing, the man said, his voice strange. Flat. Like he was forcing control over something massive. You saved him. He'll be okay, but you need to take him to a hospital. That choking episode. He needs to be checked for aspiration for. No hospitals. The man's tone turned sharp, commanding. Then softer, please. No hospitals. Cassie's instincts prickled. She pulled the baby closer protectively. He needs medical attention. What he choked on. She held up the dark crystal. What is this? How did he get it? The man stared at the crystal, and something flickered across his face. That shouldn't. How did you? He stopped, visibly gathering himself. The baby. May I? Cassie hesitated. Every true crime podcast she'd ever listened to screamed at her not to hand over the child. But the man wasn't threatening. He was desperate. But she passed the infant back carefully. The man took him with the awkward gentleness of someone who hadn't held many babies, cradling him against his chest. The baby's crying subsided to hiccuping whimpers. Thank you, the man said quietly. I don't. Words aren't sufficient. Who are you? Cassie asked. Where's his mother? Pain lanced across the man's features. Gone. She died 3 weeks ago. Complications from the birth. Cassie's heart clenched. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He's all I have left of her. The man's voice was barely audible. And I almost lost him because I don't know how to. I've existed for 1,000 years and I don't know how to care for an infant. The words should have sounded insane. 1,000 years. But Cassie found herself believing him. Maybe it was the way he moved. The way the fluorescent lights seemed dimmer around him. The cold that radiated from his skin when their hands had touched. You need help, Cassie said gently. Family? Friends? A nanny? I've had 17 nannies in 3 weeks. They all quit. The man looked down at his son. He cries constantly. Won't sleep. Won't feed properly. I hoped bringing him out, driving might calm him. Then he started choking and I panicked. The bell above the door chimed. Reggie returned from his smoke break, took one look at the scene, and wisely retreated to the kitchen. Cassie made a decision that would change her life. Sit down. Let me get you both some water. And you're going to tell me everything about this baby's routine. What you're feeding him, sleep schedule, everything. The man stared at her. Why would you help a stranger? Because that's what you do when someone needs it. Cassie shrugged. And because I've been where you are. Alone, terrified, trying to keep a fragile child alive. I know what that fear feels like. Something in the man's expression cracked. He moved to a booth and sat heavily, still cradling his son. Cassie poured 2 waters and grabbed the first aid kit. Not that she needed it, but the motions were calming. She slid into the booth across from him. I'm Cassie. Cassie Monroe. The man hesitated. Then, Elijah. Elijah Thorne. Hey Elijah. Tell me about your son. For the next hour, Cassie learned more than she ever wanted to know about impossible situations. Elijah spoke haltingly at first, then with increasing desperation. The baby, whose name was Gabriel, wasn't human. Not entirely. I know how this sounds, Elijah said, watching her carefully. But I need you to understand what you've become involved with. Try me. Cassie had seen enough strange things working graveyard shifts. Nothing surprised her anymore. I'm a vampire. Gabriel is the first vampire child born, truly born, not turned, in over 300 years. His mother was human. The pregnancy should have been impossible. Elijah's hands tightened around his water glass. When she died, I swore I would protect him. But I don't know how. Cassie should have laughed. Should have called the police. Should have run. Instead, she looked at the sleeping baby, finally peaceful in his father's arms, and saw the truth written in the unnatural pallor of his skin, the way his tiny fingernails looked almost translucent, the too sharp quality of his newborn features. Okay, she said calmly. So he's half vampire. What does that mean for his care? Elijah blinked, clearly surprised by her acceptance. You believe me? I've learned to trust my gut. And right now, my gut says you're telling the truth. Cassie leaned forward. The real question is, what does a half-vampire baby need? I don't know. The admissions seem to cost him. Normal baby formula makes him sick. He won't take blood. I tried, and he just screamed. He sleeps maybe an hour at a time. The nannies I hired either couldn't handle the crying or he stopped. They what? They were afraid. Of him. Of me. Of what we are. Elijah looked down at Gabriel. One of them tried to hurt him. Said he was an abomination. I caught her before. His voice went cold, dangerous. She's no longer a concern. Cassie processed that. So you need someone who won't be afraid. Someone who knows how to care for a difficult baby. And someone you can trust. I need a miracle. But I seem to have run out of those. Elijah's laugh was bitter. Cassie thought about Emma, about the years of impossible challenges they'd overcome. About the stack of medical bills on her kitchen counter. About the second job she'd been meaning to find but couldn't because Emma's care took so much time. About the fact that this man clearly needed help desperately enough to walk into a random diner at 4 a.m. I might know someone, she said slowly. Who? Me. Elijah stared at her like she'd spoken in a foreign language. You. I have experience with medically complex children. I'm not easily scared. And, Cassie gestured around the empty diner. I need money. You clearly need help. This could work. You would come live in my home? Care for my son? Without knowing anything about me. I know you love your child enough to ask a stranger for help. I know you're desperate and honest enough to tell me the truth about what he is. Cassie met his dark eyes steadily. That's enough for now. There are dangers. People who would harm Gabriel if they knew he existed. My enemies, and I have many, would use anyone close to me as leverage. I've handled danger before. Not strictly true, but Cassie had faced down abusive ex-husbands, dismissive doctors, and a system designed to crush single mothers. How much worse could vampires be? She would learn. Elijah studied her for a long moment. You have a child of your own. A daughter. It wasn't a question. Cassie went still. How did you? I can smell her on you. 7 years old, human, with traces of medical intervention. Surgery scars. He said it matter-of-factly. If you work for me, she comes too. I won't separate a mother from her child. Cassie's breath caught. Every nanny position she'd ever interviewed for had rejected her the moment they learned about Emma. My daughter has special needs. Cerebral palsy. She requires. Then she'll have everything she requires. My home has medical facilities. So, whatever she needs. Elijah shifted Gabriel to one arm, extending his free hand. Work for me. Help me keep my son alive. Name your price. My current rent is $1,400 a month for a one-bedroom in a bad neighborhood. Emma's therapy costs $800 a week that insurance doesn't cover. I make $15 an hour here plus tips. Cassie took a breath. I want $10,000 a month, all of Emma's medical expenses covered, and a separate room for her with accessible equipment. She waited for him to laugh, to negotiate down, to walk away. Done. You can start tonight. Cassie blinked. $10,000 a month. You're serious? My son's life is worth far more than money, Miss Monroe. Elijah stood, still cradling Gabriel. Gather your daughter. I'll send a car to your apartment in 2 hours. Bring whatever you need. Everything else will be provided. Wait, tonight? I have to give notice here, pack, arrange. Gabriel doesn't have time for arrangements. Neither do I. Elijah's expression softened slightly. I'm asking you to trust me with your daughter's safety. That's not something I take lightly. In return, I offer you protection, resources, and a chance to help a child who desperately needs you. He pulled out a card, matte black with silver lettering, and placed it on the table. Just a phone number, nothing else. Call if you change your mind. Or if you need the car sooner. He paused at the door looking back. Thank you, Cassie Monroe. For saving my son. For seeing him as a child rather than a monster. Then he was gone, moving with that same impossible grace, disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness. Cassie sat alone in the empty diner, holding a black business card, and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. Cassie's choice. Cassie's apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up with broken elevator and water stains on the ceiling. She climbed the stairs slowly, mind racing. $10,000 a month. Medical coverage for Emma. A safe place to live. It was too good to be true, which meant it probably was. She unlocked the door quietly. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chin, was asleep on the couch. The elderly woman watched Emma during Cassie's graveyard shifts, refusing payment except in the form of homemade meals and company. Emma was asleep in her bed, curled around her favorite stuffed elephant. 7 years old, with Cassie's dark curls and her father's light eyes. Beautiful, brilliant, and so much stronger than anyone gave her credit for. Cassie sat on the edge of the bed, watching her daughter sleep. The leg braces were off, resting against the wall. Emma hated them, but they helped her walk more steadily. What kind of mother takes her disabled daughter to live with a vampire? But what kind of mother turns down the opportunity to give her child everything she needs? Cassie pulled out her phone, staring at the card. She could call, ask questions, set boundaries. Or she could text her manager at the diner and quit. Before she could overthink it, she texted, I quit effective immediately. Family emergency. Sorry. Then she opened her contacts and dialed the number on Elijah's card. He answered on the first ring. Cassie, we'll need the car to accommodate a wheelchair. Emma can walk, but not long distances. And she'll be scared. New places are hard for her. I'll send my most gentle driver. He has experience with children. The pause. You're certain about this? No. But I'm doing it anyway. She could hear the smile in Elijah's voice. Then you're braver than any of the warriors I've known. The car will be there in 90 minutes. After he hung up, Cassie sat in the dark apartment, listening to Emma breathe, and prayed she wasn't making the biggest mistake of her life. The car that arrived was a custom Mercedes van with a wheelchair lift and enough room for a small family. The driver was a middle-aged man named Thomas who helped Cassie load their belongings with quiet efficiency. Emma woke up confused and cranky. Mama? Where are we going? On an adventure, baby. Cassie buckled her into a car seat that looked more expensive than their entire apartment. We're going to stay somewhere new for a while. Help take care of a baby. A baby? Emma's eyes lit up. She loved babies. Can I hold him? Maybe. If his daddy says it's okay. The drive took 30 minutes, winding out of the city into forested hills Cassie had never explored. The houses grew larger, set back from the road behind gates and walls. Finally, Thomas turned onto a private drive. The gates, wrought iron intricate, opened automatically. The estate beyond took Cassie's breath away. It wasn't a house. It was a mansion. No, a compound. Stone and glass and dark wood, sprawling across what had to be 20 acres. Gardens even in late autumn, sculpted and perfect. Outbuildings that might have been guest houses or garages. Holy shit, Cassie whispered. Bad word, Mama, Emma said automatically. You're right. Sorry, baby. Thomas pulled up to the main entrance. The doors opened before they'd even stopped, and Elijah emerged. He looked different in the dawn light, not quite as pale, though still otherworldly. He'd changed into fresh clothes, jeans, and a dark sweater that made him look almost human. Almost. He opened Cassie's door personally. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Your home is. Cassie struggled for words. Excessive, Elijah supplied. I've been acquiring property for centuries. Hard to break the habit. He moved to the other side, opening Emma's door. You must be Emma. Emma stared up at him with wide eyes. You're really tall. I am. And you're very brave for coming to a new place. Elijah crouched down to her level. Do you like gardens? I have someone who maintains them specifically for children to explore. I like flowers. Emma's voice was tentative. Purple ones especially. Then I'll make sure there are purple flowers in your room. Elijah stood looking at Cassie. I've prepared the east wing. 2 bedrooms connected by a sitting room. Emma's room has all the equipment you requested, parallel bars, therapy mats, accessible bathroom. If there's anything else you need, just ask. He'd done all that in 2 hours? A woman appeared from the house, late 50s, kind face, wearing what looked like a housekeeper's uniform. I'm Margaret. I manage the household. I'll show you to your rooms while Mr. Thorne attends to Gabriel. As if summoned by his name, a baby's cry echoed from inside the house. Elijah's expression tightened. Excuse me. He disappeared into the house at that impossible speed. Margaret smiled at Cassie. He's been beside himself. That baby won't settle for anyone. We're all hoping you can help. I'll try. Cassie lifted Emma from the car seat. Her daughter could walk, but tired easily, and followed Margaret inside. The interior was just as impressive as the exterior. High ceilings, art that looked museum quality, furniture that was somehow both modern and antique. But it didn't feel cold. Someone had made this place a home. Mr. Thorne's late wife designed most of the interiors, Margaret said, noticing Cassie's expression. She had excellent taste. This way. They climbed a curved staircase to the 2nd floor. The east wing was its own apartment, essentially spacious sitting room with a fireplace, 2 large bedrooms, and a bathroom that was more luxury spa than functional space. Emma's room was perfect. Purple curtains, how had he managed that so fast? Over large windows. A bed low to the ground with rails for safety. And in the corner, professional-grade physical therapy equipment that probably cost more than Cassie made in a year. There's a tablet on the desk with Emma's schedule, Margaret said. Mr. Thorne had his team contact Emma's current therapists and school. They've sent over all her care plans. If anything's incorrect, just let us know. Cassie felt tears prick her eyes. No one had ever cared this much about Emma's needs. No one except her. Thank you, she managed. Gabriel's nursery is 2 doors down. I'll show you once Emma's settled. Margaret smiled at Emma. There's a kitchen downstairs that's always stocked. Help yourself to anything. And if you need anything at all, anything, just press the button on the house phone. Someone will answer immediately. After Margaret left, Cassie helped Emma explore her new room. Her daughter was overwhelmed but excited, touching everything with wonder. Mama, there's a real bathtub. Emma called from the bathroom. A big one. I know, baby. Cassie sat on the bed, feeling the weight of the decision she'd made. This was real. She'd moved her daughter into a vampire's home. A soft knock interrupted her spiral. Elijah stood in the doorway, Gabriel crying in his arms. I'm sorry to intrude. He won't stop. I've tried everything. The vampire king looked utterly defeated. Could you? Cassie stood, crossing to them. May I? Elijah handed over Gabriel like he was made of glass. The baby was red-faced, screaming, his little body rigid with distress. Cassie held him against her chest, one hand supporting his head, the other patting his back in a steady rhythm. She swayed gently, humming a wordless tune. Gabriel's crying didn't stop. But it changed. Became less frantic. More tired. Talk to me about his routine, Cassie said over the noise. When did he last eat? Sleep? He ate formula, the kind made for premature infants, about 4 hours ago. Took maybe an ounce before spitting it up. He slept for 30 minutes around dawn. Elijah watched her movements like he was memorizing them. The crying started around sunset last night and hasn't stopped since. First, we're going to try skin-to-skin contact. Studies show it helps with premature or struggling infants. Cassie looked around. Is there a rocking chair in the nursery? Yes. Everything. I bought everything the baby store suggested. Show me. The nursery was, as promised, stocked with everything imaginable. But it was also sterile, no warmth, no personality. Just expensive equipment arranged precisely. Cassie settled into the rocking chair, adjusting Gabriel against her chest. Do you have a soft blanket? One that smells like you? Elijah produced a dark gray throw from the crib. It was hers. My wife's. Cassie wrapped it around Gabriel, creating a cocoon of familiar scent. The baby's crying subsided to whimpers. He can smell her, Elijah whispered. Even now. Babies have incredible scent memory. And if he's part vampire. Cassie rocked gently. Your senses are sharper, right? His probably are too. That's why he's so overstimulated. She began to hum again, the same tune from before. Not quite a lullaby, just a steady, soothing sound. Gabriel's eyes, dark like his father's, began to drift closed. Elijah sank into a chair across from them, watching with an expression Cassie couldn't name. How are you doing this? I'm not doing anything special. Just giving him what he needs, calm, consistency, and love. Cassie smiled down at the baby. He's been scared. New world, no mother, a father who's terrified. Babies feel all that. I haven't hidden my fear very well then. You're doing your best. That's what matters. Cassie met his eyes. But Elijah? You need to breathe. Or whatever vampires do. Gabriel can feel your panic. It makes him panic. Elijah nodded slowly. He deliberately relaxed his shoulders, his jaw. And Gabriel, as if in response, went fully limp, finally asleep. They sat in silence for a long moment, just the sound of the rocking chair and Gabriel's tiny breathing. My wife's name was Sarah, Elijah said quietly. She knew what she was getting into, being with me. But the pregnancy, it shouldn't have been possible. Vampire bodies don't create life. We're death animated. But you created Gabriel. Sarah created Gabriel. I just contributed. He smiled sadly. She was so happy. Even when the doctors said the pregnancy would kill her. She refused to terminate. Said this baby was a miracle and miracles were worth dying for. Cassie's throat tightened. I'm sorry you lost her. She made me promise to keep him safe. To love him enough for both of us. Elijah's voice cracked. And I can't even keep him from crying. You got him to me. That's keeping him safe. You're human. Fragile. If my enemies discover Gabriel exists, if they find out I've brought a human woman and her disabled daughter into my home, then you protect us. That's the deal, right? Cassie's voice was firm. You protect us, we help Gabriel. And Elijah? Emma's not disabled. She has a disability. There's a difference. He inclined his head. You're right. I apologize. Gabriel stirred, making a small sound. Cassie adjusted her hold, continuing the gentle rocking. You should rest, she said. When's the last time you slept? I don't need. Elijah stopped at her look. 4 days ago. Even vampires need rest. I've got Gabriel. You've been working all night. And I've functioned on no sleep for 7 years. I'm fine. Cassie smiled. Go. When you wake up, we'll make a plan for Gabriel's care. Real routine, schedule, all of it. Elijah stood reluctantly. At the door he paused. Cassie? Thank you. For not being afraid. Who says I'm not afraid? She grinned. I'm terrified. I'm just good at faking it. After he left, Cassie sat in the dark nursery, rocking a half-vampire baby, and wondered what the hell her life had become. Emma appeared in the doorway, using her walker. Mama? Is the baby okay now? He's sleeping, sweetheart. Want to sit with us? Emma climbed carefully into Cassie's lap beside Gabriel. The baby's tiny hand found her finger, gripping it in his sleep. He's so small, Emma whispered. He is. And he needs us to help him grow big and strong. Like you helped me? Cassie kissed her daughter's curls. Exactly like that. They rocked together, mother and daughters and borrowed baby, while dawn broke over the Vampire King's mansion and changed everything. Over the next week, Cassie revolutionized Gabriel's care. She created schedules, introduced routines, and most importantly, she brought warmth to the sterile nursery. "This room is too cold," she told Margaret on day 2. "Not temperature. Emotionally. It feels like a hospital." By day 3, the nursery had soft lighting, gentle music, and photos of Sarah holding newborn Gabriel. Elijah had provided them reluctantly, but Cassie insisted. "He needs to know his mother. Even if she's not here, she's part of him." She also revolutionized Gabriel's feeding. The premature formula wasn't working because Gabriel wasn't fully human. After consulting with Elijah, they created a hybrid formula, part human milk, donated, part blood, animal source, and specialized nutrients. Gabriel took to it immediately. "He's gaining weight," Elijah said in wonder, watching Gabriel nurse from a bottle in Cassie's arms. "In 1 week he's gained weight. Because he's finally getting what he needs." Cassie smiled down at the baby. "He's perfect, Elijah. You made something beautiful." The Vampire King's expression did something complicated. Cassie felt heat creep up her neck and looked away. Emma thrived too. The therapy equipment was professional grade, and Elijah had hired a physical therapist who came 3 times a week. But more than that, Emma had space to play, to explore, to just be a kid. Cassie found her one afternoon in the garden, showing Gabriel, held by Elijah, the purple flowers. "See, baby Gabriel? These are called lavender. They smell good." Emma carefully picked one, holding it to the infant's nose. Gabriel made a cooing sound, the first non-crying vocalization Cassie had heard from him. Elijah looked up, meeting Cassie's eyes. His expression was soft, unguarded, grateful. Something in Cassie's chest did a complicated flip. The wall begins to crack. It started small. A conversation over Gabriel's midnight feeding. Elijah had stayed up, ostensibly to learn the routine, but really because he seemed drawn to wherever Cassie was. "Tell me about Emma's father," he said quietly while Cassie burped Gabriel. "Why?" "Because you never mention him. And I can smell old fear when you speak of men in general." Cassie's hands tightened on the baby. "His name is Derek. We married young. I was 19, stupid in love. Emma came when I was 22. And the moment the doctors said, cerebral palsy, he was gone." He abandoned his child because she wasn't perfect? He said he didn't sign up for a broken kid. Those were his exact words. Cassie's voice was flat. "Filed for divorce, fought me on support, disappeared 2 years ago. I haven't heard from him since." Elijah was quiet for a long moment. "I would kill him for you." Cassie looked up sharply. "What?" "If you asked. I would find him and end him." Elijah's voice was matter-of-fact. "For abandoning his daughter. For hurting you. That's..." Cassie didn't know whether to be horrified or touched. "I don't need you to kill anyone for me." "Nevertheless, the offer stands." They sat in silence while Gabriel finished his bottle. "What was Sarah like?" Cassie asked finally. Elijah's expression softened. "Brilliant. She was a researcher, genetics, actually. That's how we met. She was studying vampire DNA without knowing I was vampire." He smiled. "When she found out, she was furious I hadn't told her. Then fascinated. Then..." His voice trailed off. "In love. I didn't think I could love anymore. I'd existed for so long, felt so little." Elijah looked down at Gabriel. "She changed that. Made me feel human again, even though I haven't been human for a millennium." "You loved her deeply." "I did. I do." He met Cassie's eyes. "But she's gone. And I can't stop living because she did. Gabriel needs me present, not lost in grief. That's very healthy for someone over 1,000 years old." Elijah laughed, an actual laugh, warm and surprised. "You're easy to talk to. I'd forgotten what that felt like." The moment stretched between them, comfortable and terrifying. Cassie broke it by standing, Gabriel now asleep. "I should put him down." "Cassie." She turned. "I'm glad you're here. Both of you." I'm glad we're here too. Later, lying in her bed, Cassie stared at the ceiling and wondered when exactly she'd started having feelings for a 1,000-year-old vampire widower. This was a job. Just a job. Except it was starting to feel like much more. It happened on day 10. Cassie was giving Gabriel a bath, singing softly while he splashed with increasing coordination. He was already stronger, more alert. The hybrid formula was working miracles. She lifted him from the water, wrapping him in a soft towel. As she dried his back, she noticed something. A mark. Small, silvery at the base of his neck. Like a birthmark, except it was glowing faintly. Elijah! Cassie called, alarmed. Elijah, something's wrong with Gabriel. The vampire appeared instantly, literally, 1 second absent, the next beside her. What? He saw the mark and went still. Completely, utterly still in a way that was distinctly inhuman. What is it? Is he sick? Is it? It's a protection mark. Elijah's voice was strange. But a maternal bond mark. What does that mean? Elijah touched the mark gently, and it pulsed brighter. In ancient vampire lore, when a child is orphaned, sometimes another caretaker can form a bond. A magical connection that allows them to protect the child as their own. He looked up at Cassie. You've bonded with my son. Cassie's world tilted. I what? How? By loving him. By caring for him when he had no one else. By giving him what his mother would have given. Elijah's dark eyes were intense. The mark means Gabriel has claimed you as his. And you, whether you knew it or not, have claimed him as yours. But I'm human. The bond doesn't care about species. It cares about love. Elijah stood slowly. Cassie, do you understand what this means? You're magically tied to Gabriel now. If he's threatened, you'll feel it. If he's in pain, you'll know. And what? And anyone who wants to hurt him will have to go through you first. The bond will give you power to protect him. Strength beyond human limits when he needs you. Cassie looked down at Gabriel, who was making happy bubbles, completely unconcerned by the life-altering magic happening around him. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I know. Elijah's voice was gentle. If you want to leave, I'll understand. I'll release you from our agreement with full compensation. This isn't what you signed up for. Cassie thought about Emma, thriving here. About Gabriel, healthy for the first time. About the strange, growing connection she felt to this family. If I leave, who takes care of Gabriel? I'll find someone. Someone who will love him? Who will see him as a child instead of a vampire abomination. Cassie met Elijah's eyes. Someone he'll bond with? That's unlikely. Then I'm not leaving. She said it firmly. Gabriel needs me. Emma loves it here. And she stopped, not ready to finish that sentence. Elijah stepped closer. And you. And I'm starting to care about this family. Both of you. Cassie held Gabriel tighter. Is that allowed? Am I allowed to care? More than allowed. Elijah's hand came up, hesitating near her face. It's hoped for. They stood there, a tableau, human woman holding a vampire child while his father looked at them both with an expression of desperate longing. Then Gabriel sneezed, breaking the moment. Cassie laughed, slightly hysterical. I should finish his bath. Yes. Of course. Elijah stepped back. But his eyes never left her. The bond mark glowed steady and sure between them. A promise neither had asked for but both were beginning to want. Elijah's enemies discovered Gabriel's existence on day 14. It started with a security breach. Someone got past the estate's wards, no easy feat they didn't get far. Elijah's guards intercepted them at the perimeter. But the damage was done. They took photos, Elijah told Cassie grimly. Of the nursery. Of Gabriel. Of you. Me? Why me? Because you're human and clearly bonded to my son. That makes you a target. His jaw clenched. I'm calling an emergency council meeting. They need to know about Gabriel before rumors start spreading. What rumors? That I've created an abomination. That I've broken vampire law by allowing a hybrid to live. Elijah's voice was tight. There are factions that will call for Gabriel's death. Cassie's arms instinctively wrapped around the baby sleeping in her arms. Over my dead body. That's what I'm afraid of. Elijah moved to the window. The council meets tonight. I'll present Gabriel, prove he's not a threat. But Cassie, you and Emma need to leave. Just for a few days. Until... No. This isn't negotiable. You're right. It's not. Because I'm staying. Cassie stood, facing him. The bond mark means Gabriel needs me, right? That's what you said. So I'm not leaving him to face your vampire politics alone. You don't understand what you're asking. The council is dangerous. If they decide Gabriel is a threat, they won't hesitate to. To what? Kill a baby? In front of his caretaker? Cassie's voice was ice. Let them try. Elijah stared at her. You've changed. I've been a mother for 7 years. I've faced down doctors who wanted to institutionalize Emma, social workers who wanted to take her away, a system designed to break people like us. Cassie lifted her chin. Your vampire council doesn't scare me. It should. Maybe. But I'm still not leaving. For a long moment, Elijah said nothing. Then slowly he smiled. You're terrifying when you're protective. I know. Derek used to hate that about me. I find it. Elijah's eyes darkened with something that made Cassie's breath catch. Intoxicating. Before she could respond, Margaret interrupted. Sir, the council is arriving. Keep Emma upstairs, Elijah ordered. Don't let her come down, no matter what she hears. As he left, Cassie held Gabriel tighter. The bond mark on the baby's neck pulsed with silver light. She had a feeling she was about to find out exactly how strong maternal instincts could be. The council gathered in Elijah's formal receiving room, a space Cassie had never seen before. Gothic architecture, high ceilings, and an atmosphere that screamed ancient power. 13 vampires sat around a black stone table. All of them ancient, all of them radiating menace. Elijah stood at the head, Cassie beside him with Gabriel in her arms. This is unprecedented, said a woman with ice-white hair. Bringing a human to council. The human has bonded with my son, Elijah replied calmly. She has a right to be here. The hybrid has no rights, growled an older vampire. It shouldn't exist. Cassie felt Gabriel tense in her sleep. The bond mark warned her, danger, threat, protect. Power flooded through her. Not vampire power. Something else. Maternal magic, the bond called it. Ancient as the first mother who ever protected her young. He has every right, Cassie said, her voice carrying power that made several council members flinch. He's a child. An innocent. And I will die before I let you harm him. The room went silent. Remarkable, whispered the white-haired woman. The bond is genuine. Look at her eyes. Cassie didn't know what they were seeing, but Elijah's expression had gone very still. A dark-skinned vampire stood. I am Marcus. I've served on this council for 400 years. And in that time, I've never seen a maternal bond this strong. He looked at Elijah. Your son has chosen well. Gabriel didn't choose. The bond chose for him. The bond chose her, Marcus corrected, because she was worthy. Because her love is genuine. He turned to the council. I move that we recognize the hybrid's right to exist under the protection of his father's house and his bonded mother. Seconded, said another vampire. But not all were convinced. This sets dangerous precedent, argued the older vampire. If hybrids can exist, if humans can bond with vampire children, we open doors that have been sealed for good reason. What reason? Cassie demanded. Fear? Pride? The fact that you can't control something that exists between your precious categories. Several council members bristled. Elijah placed a hand on her shoulder, half restraint, half support. Cassie speaks from emotion, he said. But her point is valid. Gabriel exists. The question isn't whether he should be alive. That's already decided. The question is whether we support him or make ourselves his enemies. And if we choose the latter, the older vampire sneered. Elijah's eyes flashed silver. Then you make yourselves my enemies. And I've built this council. I can unmake it. The threat hung heavy. Finally, the white-haired woman stood. I'm Serafina. I was turned in 1023. I've seen empires rise and fall, species come and go. And I've learned that nature doesn't care about our categories. She looked at Gabriel. The child lives. We protect him. Anyone who disagrees can challenge Lord Elijah directly. Silence. No one challenged. Then it's settled, Marcus said. The hybrid Gabriel Thorne is recognized as legitimate heir under vampire law. His human mother. Bonded caretaker, Cassie corrected. She wasn't his mother. Sarah was his mother. Bonded caretaker, Marcus amended, is granted full protection under council law. Any harm to her is harm to the child, which is harm to Lord Elijah. Agreed, murmured the council. But as they filed out, Cassie caught hostile glances. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The attempt. It happened 3 nights later. Cassie was putting Gabriel to bed, singing softly, when the bond mark flared with warning. Danger. Close. She clutched Gabriel to her chest, backing away from the window. Where was Elijah? He'd gone to meet with council members, left her with guards. The guards who were now conspicuously absent. The nursery door opened. A vampire Cassie didn't recognize stepped through, young-looking, maybe 30, with cold eyes. You should have left when you had the chance, he said. Cassie's body moved without conscious thought. The maternal bond flooded her with power, strength, speed, awareness. She put herself between the vampire and Gabriel. Touch him and die. The vampire laughed. You're human. What can you? He lunged. Cassie's hand shot out, catching his throat. Impossible strength let her hold him, actually hold a vampire, while he choked. I warned you, she said, her voice layered with power that wasn't entirely hers. The vampire's eyes widened in shock and fear. What are you? A mother. She threw him across the room. He hit the wall hard enough to crack it. But he recovered faster than she expected, blurring toward Gabriel, and stopped mid-lunge, gasping. Elijah had appeared behind him, hand through the vampire's chest, holding his heart. She told you what she was, Elijah said coldly. You should have listened. He squeezed. The vampire crumpled. Silence fell. Cassie stood panting, Gabriel crying in her arms, the bond mark blazing like a beacon. Elijah moved to her slowly, carefully, like she was the dangerous one. Cassie, are you all right? I threw a vampire across the room. You did. How did I? The bond? The bond gives you what you need to protect Gabriel. In this case, temporary vampire strength. Elijah gently took Gabriel from her arms. The baby immediately calmed against his father's chest. Cassie's legs gave out. She sat hard on the floor. Hey, Elijah knelt beside her, Gabriel between them. You're in shock. That's normal. Normal? Nothing about this is normal. Cassie's hands shook. I could have killed him. You could have. You didn't. That shows control. Elijah's free hand found hers. You protected my son. Thank you. It wasn't conscious. The bond just took over. The bond enhanced what was already there. Your love for Gabriel. Your protective instincts. His thumb traced circles on her palm. You were magnificent. Cassie looked up at him, this ancient vampire king holding his son, looking at her like she'd hung the stars. Elijah. I know. This is complicated. You work for me. You're grieving, Sarah. I shouldn't. He stopped. But Cassie, I can't ignore what I feel anymore. What do you feel? That you're the first person in 1,000 years who's made me want to be better. Who's made me feel hope for the future. His dark eyes held hers. That I'm falling for you, and it terrifies me. Cassie's breath caught. I'm falling for you too. And yes, it's terrifying. Gabriel made a happy sound, as if approving. They laughed, tension breaking. We should probably figure this out after we deal with whoever sent that vampire, Cassie said. Practical. I appreciate that. Elijah stood, helping her up. But Cassie? When this is over, we talk. About this. About us. Okay. As Elijah carried Gabriel out to beef up security, Cassie touched her hand where he'd held it. She'd come here to help a baby. Instead, she'd found a family. And maybe, possibly love. If they could survive the enemies converging on them. Word of the attack spread quickly through the vampire community. Elijah increased security, brought in trusted guards, fortified the estate. But the damage was done. Whispers started, about Cassie, about her bond with Gabriel, about the human, who thought she could raise a vampire child. The council demanded another meeting. Elijah tried to refuse, but Seraphina convinced him it was necessary. Better to face them directly than let rumors fester. So Cassie found herself once again in the formal receiving room, Gabriel in her arms, facing 13 ancient vampires. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Hostile. "We've received troubling reports," said the older vampire who'd opposed Gabriel before. His name was Victor. "About the human caretaker." "What reports?" Elijah's voice was sharp. "That she's using the bond to control the child. That she's isolating him from his vampire heritage. That she's—" Victor smiled coldly, "replacing his dead mother." Cassie's grip tightened on Gabriel. "That's not true. Isn't it? You've banned vampire staff from the nursery. You've insisted on human routines, human foods. You're raising a vampire child as human." "I'm raising him as both," Cassie countered. "He's half human, half vampire. He needs both influences." "What he needs," Victor said, "is to understand his vampire nature. Something you, being human, cannot provide." Elijah stepped forward. "Counselor Victor, your objection is noted. But how I raise my son is my concern. It becomes council concern when it affects the child's development. And perhaps," Victor's gaze moved to Cassie, "when it affects your judgment, Lord Elijah." The room went silent. "Explain." Elijah's voice could have frozen blood. "You've become attached to the human. Inappropriately so. Your court whispers about it. How you watch her with the child. How you spend hours in the nursery. How you look at her like..." "Like what?" Cassie demanded. She felt Gabriel tense, the bond mark warning her. This was bad. Whatever Victor was building toward, it was bad. Like you wish she was the child's real mother. Like you're playing house with a human woman, pretending your dead wife can be replaced. That's enough. Elijah's power flooded the room. Temperature dropped. Lights flickered. But Victor wasn't done. He turned to the council. "I move that we remove the child from human care. Assign him proper vampire tutors. End this dangerous experiment before the child is corrupted beyond repair." "Seconded," said two other vampires. Cassie felt the floor drop out from under her. "You can't do this." "We can," Victor said. "The hybrid exists at council discretion. We allowed him to live. We can dictate his upbringing." "Elijah!" Cassie looked at him desperately. But Elijah's expression was carefully blank. "The council has the right to vote. Though I will oppose." They voted. 7-6. Victor's motion passed. "No." Cassie held Gabriel tighter. "No, you can't take him from me. The bond can be broken," Victor said. "Painful but possible. For the child's good." "His good?" Cassie's voice shook. "He was dying when I found him. Dying because no one could care for him. And now that he's healthy and happy, you want to take him away. To give him a proper vampire upbringing." "Yes." Seraphina stood. "I voted against this motion. But if the council has spoken, perhaps a compromise." "There is no compromise." Cassie's power flared, the bond reacting to her distress. Silver lights surrounded her and Gabriel. "He's mine. I've bonded with him. You can't." "Cassie." Elijah's voice was quiet. "Stop." She looked at him, betrayed. "You're not going to fight this? I can't overturn a council vote. Not without causing civil war. Then start a war." Tears streamed down her face. "Fight for your son." "I am fighting for him. By keeping him alive." Elijah's expression was agony. "If I defy the council now, they'll declare Gabriel a threat. They'll kill him to prove they can. So you're just going to let them take him? Let them break our bond?" "For now." That hurt worse than anything. Cassie looked down at Gabriel, who was crying now, sensing her distress through the bond. "You're a coward." she whispered to Elijah. "I thought you were different. But you're just like every other man I've known. When things get hard, you give up." Elijah flinched like she'd struck him. "I believe," Victor said smoothly, "that concludes this matter. The child will be transferred to proper vampire care tomorrow evening. Miss Monroe, you're released from your position. Generously compensated, of course." "I don't want your money." Cassie stood, holding Gabriel close. "I want to protect this child. Something none of you seem capable of doing." She turned to leave, but Elijah caught her arm. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Cassie pulled free. "Harder for who? For you? You're not the one having your heart ripped out." She left the room, Gabriel screaming in her arms, the bond mark blazing with distress. Behind her, she heard Marcus say quietly, "You just made a terrible mistake, Elijah." Cassie withdraws. Cassie didn't speak to Elijah for the next 24 hours. She held Gabriel, cared for him, loved him, knowing every moment brought them closer to separation. Emma sensed something was wrong. "Mama, why are you sad?" "Because sometimes we can't keep the things we love, baby." "Are we leaving?" "Tomorrow. We're going home." Except their old apartment had been sublet. They had nowhere to go. But Cassie would figure it out. She always did. Elijah tried to see her multiple times. She refused. Margaret knocked softly. "Miss Monroe, Lord Elijah insists." "Tell Lord Elijah to go to hell. He says he has a plan." "I don't care." But late that night, as Cassie rocked Gabriel for the last time, Elijah appeared in the nursery doorway. "I have security removing him tomorrow," Cassie said without looking up. "You're not welcome here." "I know you hate me." Elijah stayed in the doorway. "I hate myself." "Good. You should." "But Cassie, please listen. I do have a plan." "Does your plan involve the council not taking Gabriel? Does it involve breaking the bond they're going to destroy?" Her voice cracked. "Does it fix the fact that you chose politics over your son?" "I chose his life over my pride." Elijah stepped into the room. "If I'd fought the council vote, they would have declared him a threat. 3 council members have already sworn they'd kill him rather than see him become a corrupting influence." Cassie looked up finally. Elijah's face was ravaged, grief, anger, desperation all warring for dominance. "So what's your plan?" she asked bitterly. "Tomorrow, when they come for Gabriel, you'll give him up. No fight. Full cooperation. That's your plan? Surrender." "Let me finish." Elijah knelt before her. "You'll give him up here. Then, tomorrow night, I'll break council law. I'll steal my own son back from their approved caretakers. And the 3 of us, you Emma, Gabriel and I, will disappear." Cassie's breath caught. "You'd give up your position? Your power? Everything you've built?" "In a heartbeat." Elijah's eyes held hers. "I was wrong, Cassie. I thought I could navigate politics, find a peaceful solution. But you were right. The council doesn't care about Gabriel. They care about control. If you run, they'll hunt you, brand you a traitor. Let them. I've played by their rules for 1,000 years. Time to break some rules." He reached for her hand carefully. "But I can't do this without you. Gabriel needs his bonded mother. I need you. You said horrible things to me in front of the council. Let them humiliate me. Make me feel like I was nothing. I know. I was trying to protect you. If they thought you meant nothing to me, they'd leave you alone when I ran." Elijah's voice was raw. "But Cassie, you mean everything. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for hurting you." Cassie wanted to stay angry. But Gabriel was falling asleep in her arms, trusting and vulnerable. And Elijah was offering her exactly what she wanted, a chance to keep this family together. "If we do this," she said slowly, "we can never come back. I know. Emma and I will be hunted alongside you. I'll protect you both. With my life if necessary. And what are we, Elijah? Am I just the nanny? Just the convenient human who bonded with your son? He stopped, swallowed hard. "You're the woman I'm falling in love with. The woman who saved my son and showed me how to be a father. The woman I want beside me, not just for Gabriel's sake, But for mine. Cassie's heart hammered. This is crazy. Completely. We'll be running forever. Probably. Emma deserves stability. And she'll have it. Different location but stability. I promise. Cassie looked down at Gabriel, then back at Elijah. This vampire king who was willing to give up everything for his child. For her. Okay, she whispered. Tomorrow night. We run. Elijah's expression transformed, grief to hope to something like joy. Thank you. Thank you, Cassie. But Elijah? You ever hide behind politics instead of fighting for your family again, and I will end you. Bond or no bond. He smiled. I believe you. They sat together in the nursery, planning their escape, while Gabriel slept peacefully between them. Tomorrow would be horrible. But tomorrow night? Tomorrow night they'd be free. The vampires arrived at sunset. 3 of them, led by a cold-faced woman named Helena who'd been appointed Gabriel's new caretaker. This is for the child's benefit, Helena said, eyeing Cassie with distaste. He needs proper vampire influence. Cassie held Gabriel tighter. The baby was fussing, sensing her distress through the bond. He needs love, Cassie said quietly. Can you give him that? I can give him what he needs to survive in our world. Elijah stood to the side, his face carefully neutral. Playing his part. Cassie understood why, but it still hurt to see him so distant. Miss Monroe, Helena extended her arms. The child. This was it. The moment they'd planned for. Cassie had to give Gabriel up convincingly, or the vampires would suspect something. She looked down at the baby in her arms. 3 weeks old now, healthy and thriving. His dark eyes found hers, trusting. I'll come for you, she promised silently through the bond. Tonight. I swear. She handed Gabriel to Helena. The separation felt like tearing off her own skin. The bond mark screamed protest, sending pain lancing through Cassie's body. Gabriel started crying immediately, not his normal cry, but a wail of abandonment. Mama! Emma's voice came from the doorway. Why is she taking baby Gabriel? It's okay, Emma, Cassie forced out. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Gabriel was screaming now, reaching for Cassie, his little face red with distress. He'll adjust, Helena said coldly. She looked at Elijah. Lord Elijah, do you have any final words for your son before we depart? Elijah moved forward, touching Gabriel's cheek gently. Be strong. I'll see you soon. To anyone watching, it looked like a simple goodbye. But Cassie heard the promise beneath the words. Helena carried Gabriel toward the door. The baby's cries echoed through the mansion, growing fainter as she descended the stairs. Cassie stood frozen, every instinct screaming to chase after them. The bond mark burned like fire. Miss Monroe, said one of the other vampires. You'll receive your final payment within the week. Your belongings will be packed and shipped to an address of your choosing. Get out, Cassie whispered. I understand you're upset, but... Get out. Power flared, the bond's fury. The vampire actually stepped back. They left quickly. Cassie collapsed to her knees, Emma running to her. Mama, what's wrong? I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. But she wasn't. The bond was tearing itself apart, Gabriel's distress flooding through the connection. He was crying for her, confused and scared. Hold on, she sent through the bond. Just hold on. Elijah knelt beside her. 6 hours. That's all. 6 hours and we get him back. 6 hours might as well be 6 years. He thinks I abandoned him. He'll understand when we rescue him. Cassie looked up at Elijah. You better be right about this. Because if anything happens to him, nothing will. I promise. The rescue. They moved at 2 a.m. Elijah, Cassie, and 4 vampires loyal to Elijah personally. Emma was safely hidden with Margaret, who'd proven trustworthy. Helena had taken Gabriel to a compound on the outskirts of the city, a training facility for young vampires. Heavily guarded, fortified. This is suicide, one of Elijah's guards muttered. This is family, Elijah corrected. We don't abandon family. They approached silently. Elijah had taught Cassie how to move quietly, how to stay in shadows. The bond helped too, She could feel Gabriel, sense his location even from a distance. He was on the second floor, east wing. Still crying. "I'm coming," she sent through the bond. "I'm coming, baby." The outer guards went down silently. Elijah moved with lethal efficiency, his 1,000 years of combat experience evident. They breached the compound, moving through corridors. Alarms started blaring. "Go!" Elijah shouted to Cassie. "Get Gabriel. We'll hold them off." Cassie ran. The bond guided her, pulling her toward her child. She burst through a door into a nursery, nothing like Gabriel's room at home. Sterile, cold, functional. Gabriel was in a crib, screaming himself hoarse. Helena stood over him, a syringe in her hand. "What are you doing?" Cassie demanded. "Sedating him. He won't stop crying." Helena looked up, unsurprised. "I knew you'd come. The bond makes humans predictable." "Step away from him." "Or what? You'll fight me? You're human." "I'm a mother." Cassie felt power flood through her, stronger than before. The bond had been strained to breaking point. Now it was unleashed. She moved with vampire speed, crossing the room in a blur. Her hand closed around Helena's throat. "He's a baby," Cassie said, power layering her voice. "He's scared and alone and he needs comfort. Not sedation. Not cold efficiency. Comfort." The council ordered. "The council doesn't get to torture children." Cassie threw Helena across the room. "Get out. Tell them Elijah Thorne has reclaimed his son. Tell them if they come after us, I will personally destroy every single one of them." Helena fled. Cassie turned to the crib. Gabriel was still crying, but quieter now. When he saw her, his little arms reached up. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." She lifted him, and the bond mark flared brilliant silver. Power flowed between them, relief, joy, love. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I let them take you." Gabriel buried his face in her neck, his crying finally stopping. Footsteps behind her. Cassie spun, ready to fight, but it was Elijah. Blood on his clothes, but moving fast. "We need to go. The whole compound is mobilizing." "I've got him." They ran. Through corridors, downstairs, out into the night. Cars were waiting. Elijah's loyal guards had secured escape vehicles. As they sped away from the compound, Cassie held Gabriel close. The baby was falling asleep now, exhausted, trusting her again. "You were magnificent," Elijah said quietly. "Terrifying but magnificent." They tried to sedate him. "I know. That's over now." He reached across, taking her hand. "We're free. All of us. Where do we go?" "I have properties around the world. We'll pick one, go dark, build a new life." Elijah smiled. "Together." Cassie looked down at Gabriel, then at Elijah. "Together," she agreed. Behind them, the compound's alarms faded into distance. Ahead, the road stretched dark and unknown. But they were together. And that was enough. The estate in Ireland was perfect. Remote, beautiful, and far from vampire politics. Elijah had bought it centuries ago and forgotten about it. Until now. Gabriel was thriving. 4 months old, babbling constantly, starting to show personality. He had Elijah's dark hair and eyes, but Sarah's smile. Cassie had seen photos. Emma loved the estate's grounds. She could walk further now, exploring gardens and forests with decreasing need for assistance. And Cassie? Cassie had found something she never expected. Family. She stood on the terrace, watching sunset paint the sky in gold and crimson. Gabriel was asleep in a sling against her chest. She discovered he slept better in constant contact. Arms wrapped around her from behind. Elijah, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Emma's helping cook dinner with Margaret," he murmured. "Something about teaching me to make proper human food." "You need the practice. Your cooking is terrible." "I've been alive 1,000 years without needing to cook. It's a skill I never acquired." "Time to learn then." Cassie leaned back into him. "Fathers need to know how to make breakfast." "I'm a father. Still getting used to that word." "You're a good father. A great one." Elijah turned her gently, careful not to wake Gabriel. I couldn't do this without you. Any of this. You could. You'd just be stressed and exhausted. Exhausted doesn't begin to cover it. He smiled, brushing hair from her face. Cassie Monroe, you've ruined me for my old life. I can't imagine going back to council politics and blood oath negotiations. But, because you're not going back. No. He raised an eyebrow. What am I doing instead? Raising a child. Teaching Emma to read Old English, she asked by the way. And, Cassie's heart hammered, loving me. If you want to. Elijah's expression went soft. I've wanted to love you since the moment you saved my son. Since you looked at me without fear. Since you chose us over safety. I love you too, Cassie whispered. Both of you. All three of you, counting Emma. 4. Elijah corrected. You forget yourself. You're part of this family too. He kissed her, gentle and sure, while Gabriel slept peacefully between them. When they pulled apart, Cassie was crying. Happy tears? Elijah asked. Very happy. She smiled through them. 3 months ago, I was a single mom working graveyard shifts, terrified of the future. Now look at us. Now you're a single mom who saved a vampire baby, fell in love with said vampire baby's father, and became part of the supernatural world's most wanted family. Elijah grinned. Improvement. Definite improvement. Gabriel stirred, making sleepy sounds. Cassie rocked gently, settling him. The council's looking for us, Elijah said quietly. They've put out alerts. Marcus warned me, discreetly. Will they find us? Eventually. Maybe. He pulled her closer. But by then, Gabriel will be older. Stronger. Able to defend himself. And we'll be ready. We'll face them together. Together. Emma's voice called from inside. Mama. Mr. Elijah. Dinner's ready. They went inside, this impossible family, vampire king, human woman, 7-year-old girl with cerebral palsy, and baby who was changing the supernatural world just by existing. Later, after Emma was asleep and Gabriel was fed and settled, Elijah and Cassie sat by the fireplace. He read while she sketched Gabriel's face in a journal. Do you regret it? Elijah asked suddenly. Giving up your old life? Safety? Normalcy? Cassie looked up. I gave up poverty, loneliness, and fear. What's there to regret? You could have walked away. Multiple times. So could you? She set down her sketchbook. But we didn't. Because this, she gestured between them, toward the nursery where Gabriel slept. This is worth fighting for. You're worth fighting for, Elijah corrected. You saved more than Gabriel that night in the diner. You saved me too. From what? From becoming a monument to grief. From forgetting how to feel. He pulled her close. From spending eternity alone because I was too afraid to risk love again. Cassie kissed him, pouring everything into it, gratitude, love, hope. When they finally went to bed, separate rooms still, though that was starting to feel unnecessary, Cassie checked on Gabriel one last time. The baby slept peacefully, the bond mark glowing softly at his neck. He'd grow up strong, she knew. But protected. He'd grow up knowing that his father had given up everything for him. That his bonded mother had fought vampires to keep him safe. That his big sister Emma would teach him to be kind. He'd grow up in a world that feared him, maybe. But surrounded by family who loved him. And really, what more could any child need? Cassie touched the bond mark gently, feeling Gabriel's dreams through the connection. Happy dreams. Safe dreams. Sleep well, little one, she whispered. Tomorrow's another adventure. But tonight you're safe. You're loved. The mark pulsed in response. Cassie left the nursery, closing the door quietly. Behind her, in the darkness, Gabriel smiled in his sleep. Gabriel's first birthday party was small but perfect. Just family. Cassie, Emma, Elijah, Margaret, and a few of Elijah's most trusted guards. The baby, not quite a baby anymore, starting to walk and babble actual words, was delighted by everything. Cake, which he mostly smeared on his face, presents, which Emma helped him open, and attention, which Elijah provided in abundance. Can you believe it's been a year? Cassie asked, watching Gabriel chase Emma around the garden at his toddling pace. Barely. Elijah pulled her close. Thank you. For all of this. I didn't do anything special. You saved my son. Built our family. Gave me reason to keep fighting. He kissed her temple. That's everything, Cassie. They'd married 3 months ago. Nothing official, Vampire King wedding ceremonies weren't exactly possible when you were in hiding, but a commitment ceremony that felt more real than any legal document. Emma called them both, and Dad, now. Gabriel's first word had been Mama, referring to Cassie. The second was Dada. They were a family. Impossible, unconventional, hunted by vampire councils and human authorities who'd learned too much. But they were happy. Mama. Gabriel toddled over, holding a flower. Pret. Very pretty, baby. Cassie lifted him, and he snuggled close. The bond mark had faded to a subtle shimmer, always present, but less dramatic now. Emma joined them, slightly out of breath. She'd progressed so much in the past year. Walked unaided most days. Spoke clearly. Attended virtual school and thrived. Can we have more cake? Emma asked. After dinner, Cassie said. But it's Gabriel's birthday. Which means Gabriel gets extra cake. You get normal portions. Emma grumbled good-naturedly. As the sun set over their Irish refuge, Cassie looked at her family, this strange, beautiful, impossible family, and felt peace settle in her chest. The vampire king who'd burst into her diner, desperate and afraid. The baby she'd saved and loved. The daughter who'd found her strength. The future they were building together. It wasn't the life she'd planned. But it was the life she'd chosen. And it was perfect.